First, you train hard all week, push volume, chase progressive overload, and expect muscle to grow. Then the weekend arrives, and alcohol quietly steps in as the antagonist that cancels a large part of that effort. The problem is not obvious because you still feel like you trained enough. The mechanism is biochemical and immediate. Alcohol directly suppresses muscle protein synthesis, which is the core process that builds new muscle tissue after training. A controlled study published in PLOS1 showed that post-exercise, alcohol intake reduced muscle protein synthesis by up to about 24%, even when protein was consumed. As researcher Stuart Phillips stated, alcohol reduces the anabolic response to exercise. That means your body receives the training signal but fails to fully execute the repair and growth process. The consequence is subtle but powerful. Each session becomes less productive. You are not losing muscle overnight, but you are consistently under-recovering. Over weeks, this creates a gap between effort and results. Strength gains slow, hypertrophy plateaus, and you start questioning your program, your genetics, or your discipline, while the real interference is happening hours after your last set. The solution begins with awareness and timing. Alcohol is not just empty calories. It is an active inhibitor of adaptation. The most critical window is within the first 24 hours after training, when protein synthesis should be elevated. If alcohol enters during this period, it blunts that response. The immediate adjustment is simple and measurable. Avoid alcohol in the post-training recovery window and prioritize protein intake around 0.3 grams per kilogram per meal across the day. This preserves the signal you work to create in the gym. If you want to see whether this applies to you, test it for 2 weeks. Remove alcohol after training days and track strength or volume performance. The difference is often clearer than expected. You assume the damage stops at muscle protein synthesis, but the deeper disruption happens in your hormonal environment. The problem is that alcohol shifts your internal chemistry in the exact opposite direction of muscle growth. The mechanism is rapid and measurable. Within hours of drinking, testosterone levels begin to drop while cortisol levels rise. Testosterone drives anabolic signaling and recovery, while cortisol promotes breakdown and energy mobilization. A study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology found that consuming a moderate to high dose of alcohol reduced testosterone by up to about 23% within 24 hours. At the same time, cortisol increases, creating a catabolic environment. As endocrinologist Michael Rodmark stated, alcohol induces a stress response that elevates cortisol and suppresses reproductive hormones. The consequence is a biological mismatch. You train to stimulate growth, but your hormonal state shifts toward breakdown. This does not just affect muscle size. It impacts strength progression, motivation, and even recovery speed between sessions. Over time, repeated exposure creates a pattern where your body never fully enters an optimal anabolic state. You may still make progress, but it becomes inefficient and slower than your actual potential. The solution is not extreme restriction, but strategic control. Hormonal disruption is dose-dependent and timing-sensitive. The closer alcohol is to your training window, the greater the interference. Keep alcohol intake away from heavy training days, especially sessions involving large muscle groups like legs or back, which demand higher systemic recovery. Limit intake to low quantities, ideally no more than 1 to 2 standard drinks, and avoid consecutive days of consumption. Support your hormonal environment with adequate sleep. Dietary fat intake around 20 to 30% of total calories and consistent training timing. The key shift is understanding that alcohol is not neutral. It actively competes with the hormonal signals you are trying to build. Once you see that clearly, your decisions become more deliberate. You think recovery is just about soreness fading, but the real damage from alcohol happens during the systems you cannot feel, especially sleep and cellular restoration. The problem is that alcohol gives the illusion of relaxation while quietly degrading the quality of recovery. The mechanism is centered on sleep architecture and fluid balance. Alcohol reduces REM sleep and fragments deep sleep cycles, even if total sleep time looks normal. A review in Alcohol Research Current Reviews reported reductions in REM sleep by up to about 20 to 40% after evening alcohol intake. At the same time, alcohol increases urine production, leading to dehydration and impaired nutrient transport. As sleep researcher Matthew Walker explains, alcohol is one of the most powerful suppressors of REM sleep that we know. Is obvious. The consequence is cumulative fatigue and incomplete recovery. Growth hormone release, which peaks during deep sleep, becomes disrupted. Glycogen replenishment slows, meaning your muscles start the next session with less available fuel. Reaction time drops, coordination suffers, and perceived effort increases during training. Over multiple weeks, this creates a hidden accumulation of under-recovery. You feel more tired, lifts feel heavier, and performance becomes inconsistent. This is where many athletes mistakenly increase volume or intensity, adding stress to an already compromised system. The solution is to protect the recovery window with precision. Avoid alcohol within at least 3 to 4 hours before sleep, but ideally remove it entirely on nights following training. Rehydrate aggressively with fluids and electrolytes if alcohol is consumed. Prioritize sleep duration at 7 to 9 hours in a dark, cool environment to restore natural sleep cycles. Support glycogen restoration with carbohydrate intake around 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram in the hours after training. These steps do not fully eliminate the impact, but they significantly reduce the damage. Recovery is where adaptation actually happens. When alcohol disrupts that phase, the entire training process becomes less effective. You keep showing up, you keep training, but progress slows and eventually stalls, and the frustration builds because nothing seems obviously wrong. The problem here is not a single bad session. It is the long-term interference that alcohol creates when it repeatedly disrupts adaptation. The mechanism is cumulative inconsistency at the cellular level. Muscle growth depends on repeated cycles of stimulus and recovery that stack over time. When alcohol regularly interrupts protein synthesis, hormonal balance, and recovery quality, each cycle becomes incomplete. A review in Sports Medicine emphasized that training adaptations rely on the consistency of anabolic signaling over time, meaning even small, repeated disruptions compound into meaningful losses. The consequence is a hidden plateau. You are still working, but the return on effort decreases. Over 8 to 12 weeks, this can translate into significantly less hypertrophy and slower strength progression compared to a controlled recovery environment. Inconsistent recovery also increases injury risk because tissues are not fully repaired before the next load is applied. This is where many lifters misinterpret the situation. They change programs, add supplements, or increase training volume, when the real issue is that the body never gets a clean sequence of adaptation cycles. There is also a psychological cost. When results do not match effort, motivation drops. You start questioning your approach, and adherence becomes harder. This is the real loss, not just muscle, but momentum. As researcher Brad Schoenfeld noted, consistency is the primary driver of hypertrophy over time. Alcohol, when poorly timed, directly attacks that consistency.
The solution is to protect training blocks.
Think in 4 to 6 week phases where recovery is tightly controlled. During these periods, minimize or eliminate alcohol to allow uninterrupted adaptation. Outside of these blocks, intake can be reintroduced strategically without derailing progress. This approach preserves both results and flexibility. If you want to break a plateau, do not add more work. First, remove what is interfering with the work you already do. You tell yourself the balance is under control, that a few drinks will not matter because everything else is disciplined. The problem is that alcohol impact is not linear. It follows a threshold effect where small increases create disproportionate physiological disruption. The mechanism is dose and frequency interaction. Even moderate intake, defined as about 0.5 grams of alcohol per kilogram body weight, has been shown to impair recovery markers when placed close to training. When frequency increases across the week, the body never fully restores baseline. A position stand in sports medicine states, the effects of alcohol on recovery are dose-dependent but evident even at moderate levels. This means the idea of safe by default moderation is often misunderstood. The consequence is a false sense of control. You believe you are maintaining balance, but your system operates in a constantly compromised state. Instead of clear peaks of recovery and adaptation, you create a flat line. Strength gains become slower, body composition changes stall, and fatigue becomes normalized. The most critical issue is that this pattern is hard to detect because there is no single point of failure. It is a gradual erosion. Over months, this can represent a significant loss of potential progress compared to someone with identical training but cleaner recovery cycles. This is the turning point. You either continue assuming the cost is negligible, or you recognize that even moderate intake has a measurable price when poorly timed. The shift is not about eliminating alcohol entirely. It is about understanding where it sits in your priority structure. The solution is to define clear rules. Limit alcohol to non-training days. Cap intake at 1 to 2 standard drinks, and avoid back-to-back drinking days. Separate alcohol from intense sessions by at least 24 hours on both sides when possible. This creates protected windows where adaptation can occur without interference. Once you apply structure, the illusion disappears, and you regain control over the outcome. You now see the full picture. Alcohol is not just a lifestyle choice. It is a variable that directly alters your training outcome. The problem is not alcohol itself, but uncontrolled timing and dosage that interfere with adaptation cycles. The mechanism is interaction across all systems you have seen. Suppressed protein synthesis, disrupted hormones, impaired sleep, and inconsistent recovery. When these stack, the body fails to fully translate training into progress. The key insight is that adaptation is time-sensitive, and alcohol competes for that same window. The consequence is either stagnation or slower progress than your actual capacity. Over a year, even a small reduction in efficiency per session compounds into a large difference in muscle mass and strength. This is where two individuals with similar training diverge significantly. One protects recovery, the other interrupts it. As the American College of Sports Medicine emphasizes, recovery is an essential component of performance adaptation. When recovery is compromised, performance cannot reach its ceiling. The solution is precision, not restriction. You control 3 variables: timing, dose, and context. First, create a non-negotiable rule: no alcohol within 24 hours after resistance training. This protects the peak muscle-building window. Second, Cap intake at low levels, ideally 1 to 2 drinks, to minimize hormonal and recovery disruption. Third, pair alcohol intake with hydration and protein intake to reduce secondary damage, even though this does not eliminate the primary effects. Here is the actionable step. For the next 14 days, align alcohol only on rest days and keep it outside the 24-hour recovery window. Track one key metric, either strength on compound lifts or total training volume. Compare it to your previous 2 weeks. This removes opinion and replaces it with data. Once you measure the difference, the decision becomes objective.